morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Staten Island. I'm so grateful to have you here with us today. I welcome you from the comfort of your homes, from wherever you are, and however you are feeling. I hope you find a way to get comfortable into this virtual space, to relax and to rest from wherever you are seated at home. I'm the Reverend Emily D. Tarbird, and I'm speaking live to you from my apartment in Marble Hill, Manhattan. Grateful to be with all of you this morning. I begin our service with words adapted by Sylvia Howe. We gather on the edge of a new year, saddened by our losses, cherishing our joys, aware of our failures, mindful of the days gone by. We gather on the cusp of this new year, eager to begin anew, hopeful for what lies ahead, promising to make changes, anticipating tomorrows and tomorrows. We invite you to join our celebration of life, knowing that life includes the good and the bad, the endings and the beginnings. With that, let us enter into our worship together. I now invite Chris Johnson to light our chalice this morning.
Please join me in the affirmation chalice lighting. In the search for truth, in the spirit of love, we unite in worship and fellowship.
And as we have been doing since last June, I extend our chalice lighting. One moment, please. Thank you. I extend our chalice lighting as a practice of commitment. I'd like to take a moment of silence to light these candles for the names of some of those who've been recently affected by police brutality. I know that we cannot cover all of the names of those who've been affected, but here are a few. We light a candle for the life of Dalal Eid, the life of Andre Hill, and for the life of Casey Goodson Jr. May these lights continue to remind us of our commitment to a world free of injustice, to a world that calls for racial justice, and to proclaim that Black Lives Matter. And now I invite us to sing our opening hymn, O Life That Maketh All Things New. Give me a moment while I get our hymn lyrics uploaded for you. Thank you. Thank you for our patience. I'm grateful to have Kevin and Carolyn to lead our hymn. Again, this is hymn, O Life That Maketh All Things New.
O life that maketh all things new, the blooming earth, our thoughts within, our From heart to heart, the bright hope glows. The seekers of the light are one. The freer step, the fuller breath, the wide horizon's grander view, the sense of life that knows no death, the life that maketh all things new.
Thank you for singing our opening hymn with us. I now invite Chris Johnson to share our reading this morning.
Our reading is an excerpt from a chapter of John O'Donohue's book, To Bless the Space Between Us, a book of beginnings, and it's from the chapter in the book titled Beginnings. Beginnings often frighten us because they seem like lonely voyages into the unknown. Yet, in truth, no beginning is empty or isolated. We seem to think that beginning is setting out from a lonely point along some line of direction into the unknown. This is not the case. We are never as alone as our beginnings as it may seem at the time. A beginning is ultimately an invitation to open towards the gifts and growth that are stored up for us. When the heart is ready for a fresh beginning, unforeseen things can emerge. And in a sense, this is exactly what a beginning does. Such beginnings have their own mind, and they invite and unveil new gifts and arrivals in one's life. Beginnings are new horizons that want to be seen. They are not regressions or repetitions. Somehow, they win clearance and become fiercely free of the grip of the past. What is the new horizon in your life that wants to be seen? So ends our reading.
What is a new horizon in your life that wants to be seen? I hate resolutions. I really do. I just hate resolutions. Every time in the past I've tried to make a New Year's resolution, they never seem to stick. I usually do something like this. Maybe it's example, a few years ago I tried to do a poetry practice. I'll pick something up and I'll do it for 3 or 4 days. I'll start feeling confident, and maybe I'll do it for a week. And then something happens in my schedule. I don't know what it is, but something will happen and I won't be able to do it that day. And then it'll drop just as easily as I picked it up. I'm just not good necessarily at forming new habits and new beginnings. But listening to the wisdom of John O'Donohue, I realized that maybe I wasn't really going for a new beginning. I invite us all to listen to this wisdom and to think about it together as we try to start fresh in the year 2021 and to leave 2020 behind. I invite us to think about what it means to make room for something completely new. I have a sneaking suspicion why my resolutions never work. And sometimes it might be because they're not really based on anything unexpected or new. Most of my resolutions are based on something from my past. For example, that poetry resolution I made, it's because I was an English major in college and I loved writing poetry, but I'm thinking of an idealized version of myself that probably never actually was. Or even when I want to exercise regularly, which is good and a good goal to have, I think about when I used to be a gymnast and how flexible I used to be, and think about this idealized version of myself. But these resolutions that I made, they're stuck in the past. As John O'Donohue says in our reading, beginnings aren't repetitions, and they aren't regressions. They aren't based in the past. They may come from the past, from the gifts and the invitations we have, but they are new horizons. They really are making a new way. I think a lot about this, at least this week, because I want a new beginning in 2021. I can think of all the rhetoric that people have given me around New Year's this last week around, we're so done with 2020. We're ready for something new. We're so done with the past. We are ready for a new year. And yet what I find frustrating is that the desires I have heard from everyone have been this desire to return. And it's normal and it makes sense. Desire to return back together in a way where we can join physically, a desire to be with family, a desire to have ourselves back to what we used to know, to simpler and better or easier times. And these desires are well placed. It's what we want to happen. But also, they're not necessarily new beginnings. And there's a part of me that fears that if we lean too much in this desire to get things back to how they used to be, we'll continue to see incidents like we have seen of how quickly this pandemic can spread if we let go of our restrictions, if we try to enter back too soon. And we can just keep prolonging the spread of this disease. It's so heartbreaking and it's so frustrating. And I do believe that we will be together in person soon. But I also think that I know it can't be by resuming the way things used to be, but to make room for something new. When I think about it, so many of the resolutions that I've had and why they don't work is because I haven't let go of the person I used to be. I haven't let go of my desire of the past, of the idealized version of myself from when I was 15 or 20. But it's not just in myself when I think about resolutions. I also see this when it comes to our society and our government and what we talk about. The last 4 years, there's been a large slogan that's been used, "Make America Great Again." And now we're hearing a new slogan, "Restoring the Heart of Democracy." These things are good goals, but also they are from our past. They're based on idealized versions of who we as a society used to be, based on ideas of the past. And if there's anything that 2020 has taught us, is that we need something radically new. Everything about how we as a society and a culture value things needs to shift. How we value health, not as a self-care ritual or as a commodity that can be bought and sold, but actually valuing people's health and people's livelihoods. How about our economy? How we base our economy off of multi-million-dollar companies instead of individual people who are able to afford their rent or their food. Everything about the ways our insurance practices or our healthcare systems have implicit racial bias that has gone unchecked, that needs to be shifted so we can prevent further deaths and illnesses in the future. So much needs to shift. And I think that everyone across, well, the world knows that something really new has to be created. And I know putting it that way, it makes it seem like it's impossible. Yet, ironically enough, I feel like the knowledge that radically new things are possible has come from 2020. It was not even a week when New York City entirely shut down. Schools places of work, healthcare systems, all had to radically adapt and fast to caring for each other. The ways we're doing social services, the ways we check on and connect with people, all of it has changed. And that doesn't take away from the losses or the fear or the hardship that this year has given us. But it leaves me wondering, what would it look like to adapt, to change so radically in the face not of fear or of life-threatening illness, but of hope and dreams of all that we could be? I'm saying all of this because I don't know where to start. I don't know what a new beginning really looks like, and I have no answers. I only give you more questions. But I know that something does have to change. And I know it only can change if we start to do something. If we prepare ourselves for the unexpected and the new horizons that are within us. If we let go of the versions of ourselves individually, collectively as a society that we used to be, and instead start actively dreaming of the people we can become. I believe that this year has shown us we can live with more compassion. We can live in a better relationship with our environment. We can live in ways that change the priorities of our government, of our societies, of each other. We can build a world where we don't just survive, but we actually thrive. And I know that to get that started, we need to do something. I don't know what, but something. So let's start small. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a new song that you have on your heart, or maybe it's connecting with a family member in a new way, or having a conversation with someone you're not used to having a conversation with. I know that I do not know all of you the way you know yourselves. And I know you might know of something you might want to do that's small that you could start to do. All I do know is I know of the limitless possibilities that each and every one of you can harness, and a limitless power that we as human beings have to adapt and change. Soon and very soon, as is language I've adapted from colleagues in the Christian faith, soon and very soon, we will again be in person together, standing in our building after vaccines have been distributed and it's safe enough and healthy enough for us to gather. Standing in a building that, well, was not the original building in 1852. Actually, 3 buildings in to the congregation, we now have the legacy of calling the Unitarian Church of Staten Island. Building in a place filled with both legacy and past, but also a vision of what can be. So when we gather together physically, I hope that as a community, we won't take it as a sign that we are returning to what was, but as a hopeful force to motivate us to dream of all we can become. As a congregation, we have a beautiful mission statement, but we have never, I don't know of one in our congregational record of a vision statement. And this year may not be the best year to start talking about one. But I know that we all together have a vision of who we can be as a community, that we can start thinking about what it means and dreaming of what it means for us as a community to think of the future. There's so much that we already are and so much we already can be. We can be a voice of social justice on Staten Island that can wield our presence in a way that really does make radical change. We can be a place where science is not averse to the spiritual or the religious, but something that's valued with each other. We can be a place where we share deep truths and harsh realities of the world so that we can dream of building a better one. I think this year has shown to me that we are so much more than our building or than our people. We really are a community, one that cares for each other and one that can dream of the future. We have adapted through so much, and I'm so proud and thankful and grateful for each and every one of you for the ways we have adapted through this past year. And for me, it only proves how much more we can do together. So let's start dreaming, not of who we used to be, though we can inform our next chapter, not of the things and the ways that things were, but of the ways our faith and our hearts can tell us they can be. So though I hate resolutions, I'll make one with you today. I resolve this year, even when it's hard, even when it feels like it's not possible, to grant myself the ability to dream, to really just dream of what can come next. And I invite you to join with me. Whatever you dream, start doing something. It doesn't have to be planned out. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be in your routine, penciled in and scheduled in on Thursday or Friday. It can just be something. If you need to drop it, you can. But start badly, start imperfectly, and start anyway. Because you and your dreams matter. And they can actually help us change the world. May this year truly shatter all we know. Give us room to grow. And make room for a world long awaited and entirely new. May it be so. And amen. Thank you everyone for bearing with us and for bearing with me on my brand new computer whose microphone is still being tested out. We will have more improvements in the future. But now is a time in our service for our offertory. I invite you to give and donate as you can to our community. Hi, everyone. Now is a time in our order of service where we invite everyone to share their joys and sorrows that are on their hearts this morning. I invite you to share them in two ways. Either chat them, write them in the chat below, or you can unmute yourselves and we can hear each other as we share our joys and sorrows. I want to start by uplifting one that's near and dear to all of our hearts. I'm thinking this morning of the life of Harvey Rosenfitz, who was such an important member of our community, whose presence was loud and big and with us in so many ways, who sang with us time and time again. So may his memory be a blessing to all of us. May we continue to live out his fierce eye for injustice, his fierce eye for anti-fascism, and continue to live into that gentle spirit that helped bless all of us. I now invite you to unmute yourselves and share your joys and sorrows as you wish. Yes, please share.
Emily, I was going to share that I spoke to Danita Branham, who is with the Middle Collegiate Church in the Lower East Side. Years ago, I used to work with her. And, you know, we have been friends for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. And she is the president of the Middle Collegiate Church that was burned down. I don't know if some of you heard about it, but we had a really nice conversation, and it made me think of something that Jill Huckle said years ago when we were having real financial problems, that we don't need a building, that the church, you know, if we had to give up the building, it's really the people, not the building. And that's the way Danita feels too. I mean, they will build back, it'll be different. Talk about new beginnings. But it just made me think of that when you were talking.
Thank you for lifting that up. Nima, I see your hand is raised, so I invite you to speak with us today.
Thank you for speaking about my father like that. I appreciate it. I just wanted to thank everybody that's reached out and spoken to me, or, you know, whatever at this point. I'm sorry, I'm still a little muffled. But for anybody that's been present, it's been comforting, and I've appreciated it. And I'm just grateful to have a church like this one to go to.
Nima, we're so grateful for all that you've done with our community and your presence with us. You mean so much to us all.
I'd like to share a word or two about Harvey. As many of you know, Harvey really, really loved movies. And on several occasions through the years, he's had film showings at the church. And I'm ashamed to say I never attended a single one, although I love movies but never have time to watch them. However, a few months back, Harvey and I started a Sunday evening movie theater evening. I would go over to his house and he would share a movie from the thousands that he has in his house, DVDs, and had wonderful experiences at his house. And it included always having a cup of fresh brewed coffee with his Keurig coffee maker. And I always admired it and said, well, you know, I wish I had one, but I priced them and they seemed kind of pricey. So about 3 months ago, Harvey said, well, I'm going to get something for you. And he didn't say what it was. And then something came in the mail that week, a large box, and it was a Keurig coffee maker. So I've been enjoying my Keurig coffee every morning and some afternoons as well. One very sad thing is that I never got to say goodbye to Harvey. The last couple of months he was in a rehab hospital and then in the Staten Island University. and he was too weak to phone people and too weak to answer his phone. So every time I have a cup of coffee, this is my wish to Harvey. Thank you for all the good times, all the good movies that you shared with me and shared with hundreds of other people during your life. And thank you for all the song. We talked about music as well, but it's mostly a movie night. But I did enjoy singing with him in the choir for many years, he and Nima. And we will have those times again going forward where we can all sing together. And I know that he'll be standing there with us in spirit. I'd also like to thank Carolyn for choosing all the music for today's service from the movie repertoire, which some of the most wonderful tunes have been written for the movies. And thank you, Carolyn, for joining with us this morning.
Thank you.
I invite us all to continue to share. Please know that during coffee hour, we will also share more of our memories and our hopes for this new year. I don't see any more hands raised. Is anyone, please feel free to unmute yourselves if you have something to share. Seeing no one else, I'm going to go ahead and let us enter into a spirit of meditation and community this morning. O Spirit of life and love, we are so grateful to be here on the brink of a new year, filled with the possibility of a new way of being together and of doing things in our world. We lift up in sadness and in memory the life of Harvey Rosenfitz, knowing that his memory is a blessing to all of us and that we live out his legacy of justice, his fierce desire for knowledge, and his love. We also share, both with sadness and with hope for the future, about Middle Collegiate Church, which had burned down last month, but knows that their revolutionary love cannot be stopped. And we lift up this interesting transitional time, still in the middle of a pandemic, still dealing with life the way it is here, and hoping for the future as vaccines continue to be distributed. For so much of this, for so much more, we are grateful to be in community, and we are hopeful for the new beginnings ahead of us. May it be so, and amen. And now I invite us all to sing "We Are Building a New Way." The lyrics will be projected on the screen, and Kevin and Carolyn will be singing along. Thank you, Kevin and Carolyn.
We are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is a seed. We are feeding every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world would die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Thank you, everyone. I now invite Christine Johnson to extinguish our chalice this morning.
Please join me in the affirmation as we extinguish our chalice today. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Cheers.
Before our benediction, I'm inspired by a benediction that was shared by a mentor of mine at Community Church of New York, Reverend Drew Southworth, when I was an intern there. This is a benediction he would often say. Whatever you dream, start today. Boldness has genius and power and magic to it. So let us begin to turn our loving into living, our forgiving into giving, so that the world awaited becomes more nearly the world attained. Maybe so, and amen.